So Rick, welcome to the show, and fill me in on what's going on in Greenbelt West.
Well, thank you for having me. There's so much going on in Greenbelt West. As you know, we had various things such as voter registration rallies that kind of push the issue of voting and empowerment, as well as census. Because you well know, there's a huge, obviously, immigration population, especially in Greenbelt West. Especially Hispanic population is very large within Greenbelt West. So we wanted to let them know, you have to get registered. You have to make sure that you do these surveys and do not be afraid. No matter what this administration says, you need to fill out these census forms. So right. It's very important.
Yeah, the consequences are just too big to not fill that out.
Yeah, they're too big because actually what the census does, for those who don't know who are watching this, it decides funding. It decides, if you're going to get an extra congressman or not, if you're going to get an extra senator or not. Because when you have accurate numbers, you can say, okay, we can justify, we're going to add another congressman. And that's more power in Washington that we could have. Another person advocating for our rights, advocating for funding, advocating for school supplies, better pay for our teachers, things such as that. So the census is very important, that we must have an accurate number, and you have those that will try to suppress that, because if you don't have accurate numbers,
the other side wins.
The other side wins easily because, they don't have these numbers or people not fill out these forms. So, it's very important that folks fill out these census forms. That is something I've been pushing, obviously, since I rallied a few months ago, especially voter registration, voter empowerment, especially with the elections literally right around the corner. And then our own election here in Greenbelt, which is coming up in November.
Exactly. So, so as far as voter registration, do you feel like you're making any progress there? And number two, or part B of the question is, will more people be participating in this smaller election, which is only for city council, but it's not only, it's big too.
Yeah, it is. It's very important. Like I tell all folks, and I learned this many years ago when I was in college. I remember an old city councilman, and went to college in South Carolina, and a local city councilman there, Lewis Fleming. He told me, because I was a political science major there, and I was SJ president, student body president. I was there, we were talking, and he said, all politics is local. And it all starts at the ground level. And that's the same thing I tell anybody watching this. This election is probably more important than your city election, more important than your county elections, your state elections, more than your national, because it directly affects you on the level that you live in, as far as trash pickup, as far as various things that's going on your roads, as far as your community safety, policing. It deals with a lot of those things that you deal with every day. Now, on the national level, yes, those things do affect you, but it could take a time for it to kind of trickle down before it really can affect you. May take effect maybe a year or two or three, but those city elections are very important, and we have to get folks out. I think that we're making headway. More folks are more energized. When I first started this 2 years ago, I remember we had our first voter registration rally. Actually, it'll be 2 years. 2 years this coming weekend. It'll be 2 years when we have that initial rally and trying to get people to register to vote, getting people active and involved. So I think the energy is there. And I think we're going to see the numbers, where we did see the numbers rise in the last election, especially in Greenbelt West. So, we've had an increase in voter registration. So I think we're going to continue to see that number rise, and we're going to have more participation. I really feel that.
You earlier mentioned that there's an obstacle to voter involvement and participation, and that is that there are just so many people working multiple jobs.
Yes, so that's one thing. So the biggest thing that, I tell people, and we have to understand that, cost of living, especially our leaders, cost of living, that's one thing, especially with the possibility of the new project with the Beltway Plaza coming up, affordable housing. And this is something that I champion, that, if you have somebody living, and paying $2,000 a month for an apartment, and, they have to work 2 or 3 jobs, so when they work 2 or 3 jobs, so when it comes up, well, we want city participation in this, they got to.
That's right. What do you do? I mean, do you rest, or you do from working 2 jobs?
Yeah,
or what?
I would love to go to the jazz festival. I would love to go to the blues festival, but I just worked a 12-hour shift, and I have to get a little nap before I go work another 12-hour shift.
Exactly, and I've got to get my groceries. I have to do my home stuff, right?
Yep, and I have to make sure the kids doing their homework. Got to make sure I cook for them, make sure they eat, make sure they're taken care of. They got clothes washed. All those things are far in between. So I think that's one of the key things, the big obstacles. Definitely the cost of living, because that does affect. It trickles down so much, because it can hinder those from getting involved how they want to get involved, especially when it comes to voting. because you have those who work those jobs in the morning. I know we have, and obviously we're definitely increasing that by having more of the early voting.
Right.
We want to really stress that in this election, early voting, getting out, having more opportunities for folks to early vote.
Because there is, I think, early voting at the Spring Hill Lake
There is.
Recreation Center,
There
correct?
is. There is early voting
and
there.
What is that going to be on a Saturday, a weekend? I'm not really sure.
It's usually the last time it fell on a Saturday, so it was there on a Saturday and that Sunday. So it was there 2 days. You have the early voting, so that's when we want to stress the folk. We know that you work, but you gotta get out and vote. We need you participation. We gotta get you involved. So that way folks can come, they can vote, and if they do miss the early voting, they still can vote on actual election day.
Right.
Which.
So let me skip ahead to the possible development over at the mall and how that could possibly spill over to Franklin Park. What are people talking about?
Well, the biggest thing, obviously, when you have developments like that, and what it does, it sometimes it can affect, and now I think overall, it's going to have a positive effect. I have much confidence in Cap Caperstein, and as far as him doing right by the city. I mean, he's obviously, been a pillar within the Greenbelt community for decades. So I definitely have my confidence with Cap. But one thing I will say to the developers who are going to do this, what are you going to do to make sure that the housing is affordable? Then you have obviously one thing as far as schooling. When you have an influx of population, you're going to fill a school. Now, granted, yes, we did have some maintenance and some things that have taken place over at Spring Hill Lake Elementary. They just recently, did before the school year started.
Right.
They did some repairs there.
Yeah, some roof repairs, a little bit of asbestos remediation.
Yes, and all that, which is great. But at the same time, it needs a new building. Look, I mean, I have to call a spade a spade. It needs a new facility. The kids, and you have the trailers. I think, to me that's unacceptable. Right. To have kids going that get classes in trailers and things like that. You have now obviously the asbestos part they're trying to take care of, the roofing, they're trying to take care of the mold, they've taken care of, things like that. They're trying to take care of, especially with kids in that environment. But, we can always do better. And I want to ask the developers, what are they going to do to help the community better equip our kids, especially the new kids that are going to be coming in? Because again, people move in, they're bringing kids with them. Right. So you're going to have more overcrowded classrooms. Right. So that's one key aspect to that.
Great. Well, thanks for filling us in a little bit on what's going on, and I look forward to hearing more in the future.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.